Good afternoon. Welcome to South TV. It's me, Monica Kunsekwe Guta, life coach and your host. I have got here George Brown, who's going to continue with our lessons. Today is lesson 6, session 6, not lesson 6, session number 6, and we are talking about taking action as well as what do we get beyond our fear. So, George, I'm going to hand it over to you so that we continue with our session.
Okay, Monica, it's always a pleasure to see you. You make me smile. I'm going to type a couple things in the chat just so that they're there for later on. One is about a gentleman called Nick Ortner. Ortner. And he has an app that you can download. Download the app for free. Sometimes he has free techniques that you can use, but not always them. And what he talks about is EFT. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. So I'm just saying you can check that app out. It's called the Tapping Solution. And if you're experiencing anxiety about anything, my wife swears by it. She's a counselor, and she uses it with people that are very anxious. So I'm going to briefly talk about it. I have used it myself, and I am certainly not an expert at using it, but I'm there if someone wants guidance through it. I could do it, but no, I can't do it today on the show. We won't have time. But I'm just giving that as a something that you can check out for your homework, personal homework. So now I'm going to start sharing my screen, if that's okay.
That's perfect. Here we are.
So welcome to your ReWirement for Success. And this is what we've been working forward. It is a process. As you see, we've been working for 5 weeks now. You can check out our Facebook page, Your ReWirement for Success. There is a lot of video postings on that site that you can watch for free. And you can email me at yourrewirementforsuccess@gmail.com if you have some questions. If you want to make comments, you can comment on the videos, of course, that are there. And if you want a copy of the actual workbook, it's free. If you send me an email, I will send you a copy of the workbook. As people that are on, hopefully today, can attest to, they have received a copy of the workbook. So, what was the 6 weeks? What was our schedule? Well, first of all, we wanted to talk about 100% responsibility. And I don't mean that you're not responsible enough. I mean, take the time to use the formula E+R=O for any event that's coming at you, coming towards you, that's around you. You have to stop briefly and say, okay, what is the outcome I want from this event? And only once you look at the outcome first, then you can respond in a way to get the outcome you want. Now, a lot of times we just react, and we react, and we're really good at it, and we're really good at quickly, analyzing a situation and thinking it, and making assumptions. This is the key. We make assumptions about someone that has said something to us, and we assume that they are out to hurt us, maybe. So we react in that way. But if you take the time to think about their words and actually respond, you might get a better outcome. And so I encourage you to practice using this formula. And then it comes toward yourself, just stop for a second. You can always pause, even when you're giving a speech. You can pause before you go on to that next statement for emphasis. But responding is where you want to go. That's where you take your responsibility. The second session, we talked about to know what you want. And we did an exercise where we encourage you to sit down with someone that you trust and both do each other, but that person asks you over and over and over again, what do you want? Until you get away from, I want, spaghetti for supper, or I want, that ice cream cone right now, or I want a Big Mac. You need to get down to those things that maybe you don't want to think about. The society, by telling you that money doesn't grow on trees, you have not thought for a long time about what do you want? What do you actually want? And sometimes you have to ask your subconscious more than once to get those answers that are buried deep inside you. What do you really want to do? You want to be a lawyer, or do you want to be a musician? And, sometimes we do what we have to do to make a living. But at least for me, retired now, I can say to myself, what do I want? And I encourage you to do it. Even if you don't take that full action, you will be surprised what comes up for you. What do you want? Obviously, if you're going to go to the next step beyond what do you want, you need to build up a stack of poker chips in front of you, to build up your self-esteem, to be confident, to trust that what you want is what you want. Now, that could change. I mean, your wants can change daily, but you still want to build up a stack of poker chips. So what have you done? What have you been successful at? You learned to drive a car. You can ride a bike. You learn to walk. You learn to talk. I think, one of the exercises was to sit down and list 100 successes that you've had in your life. And I'll bet you that you can do it. If you need help with this, you sure know how to get in touch with me, and we can explore why you don't think you have 100 successes. Once you know what you want, once you feel confident, once you have your self-esteem built up, you've got your diplomas on the wall, your high school graduation diploma, all the things, the trainings that you've had, put them up, all the trophies that you've won. Now you want to sit down, look at your list of what you want and say, okay, how much is it and by when? You want to be really clear about what it is now, what you want. I don't just want a car. I want a red Ford F-150 with a large extended cab on it I can take my grandsons to the store with me, take the dog to the dog park. I want the color, and I want the this interior. You want to be sure. I want seat heaters. This weather in Calgary, I want seat heaters in that vehicle. You want to make sure you get it really clear. So how do you go from setting goals to then start releasing the brakes? And a couple of suggestions, is to write affirmations. One of the things that I wanted to do is I woke up this summer. Woke up's not the right word. I realized I was at 195 pounds, and I was riding, my bike every day and riding, 35, 40 kilometers a day, and I wasn't losing any weight. So I wrote an affirmation that I'm feeling alive. Initially, I'm feeling alive at 185. And then I had the Lord, I'm feeling alive. Well, now at 175 because I'm down to 180 pounds. So, the affirmations work, but you have to, affirm them every day, at least once a day. And I suggest more than that. I would have them on speech cards, where you can pull them out of your shirt pocket, or you can pull them out of your purse when you're riding the train or riding the bus or riding as a passenger in your car, and you want to just, build up your self-esteem. Read those affirmations in your mind, what you want to do. And one final time, the mirror exercise at night when you go to bed, I want you to say them in front of the mirror while you're looking at yourself in the mirror. And you write affirmations in a positive way as if you already have that Ford F-150 or whatever it is that you want. Another thing you might do is you look at your goals every day and you go through your affirmations. You should be thinking, what are the 5 things you can do towards getting your move towards your goal the next day? And I encourage you to use the power of 5. You'd be amazed at how it focuses you the next day. You have down the 5 things that you want to do, and they get done. That's the amazing thing about it. You've actually put them on your calendar, so to speak. So that is a wonderful way to do it. But today we want to talk about taking action, because the universe only rewards people that take action. If you don't take action, the universe says, oh, you're not serious. You really don't want to do this. So you don't have things appear in front of you that you want, those affirmations. Oh, look, there goes you start thinking about a red Ford F-150. Hey, there's one just drove by. Oh, is that the kind of one that I want? So, you start seeing things that you didn't see when you start saying your affirmations. Or you see that property that you want, but you drove by it day after day and it didn't appear to you because you didn't get clear and write an affirmation about exactly what you want, and then boom, oh, why didn't I notice that before? It was there, but you weren't clear about what you wanted. So let's take some action. The 5 weeks prior to this were all about preparing for today. Preparing for today. If you don't believe me, what did we do to prepare? We should have been working on a vision board. We should have pictures on our vision board of all these things that we want. You found pictures, or you went and took pictures, or you got pictures taken when you went and sat in that vehicle that you want, or that bicycle that you want, whatever it is. You've got pictures, you put them on the board, or maybe that vacation you want. We're all hoping we're going to get vacations by the end of the year is what we're all hoping. You should have started a vision board, and you have that vision board someplace where you can see it every day. And I recommended that you go to Michael's and ask them for vision board material, and they can supply it. You wrote your affirmations. At least I hope you did. And you're saying those affirmations, and you have to do it daily. Most importantly, before you go to bed at night, at the mirror exercise, you say it. Remind yourself of those things, what you want, and it reminds you of what your goals are. And all affirmations should be positive, and they should be said with extreme emotion, because emotion is what activates the universe for you. You set goals. I hope you set goals. But you need to. This was all prep for today. And you planned actions. So what is today? Today is the time to act. And I hope you got a rig red button. You're ready to push it. It's time to take action, because only action. The universe rewards action. It doesn't reward preparation. It doesn't reward all these other things. It rewards when you take action, and only when you take action. So one of the things I want to talk about, the first exercise is in the workbook is 6.1. Stop scaring yourself exercise. Really, most fears are all self-created. We're masters at it. We have a vision. We want to make it a goal. We have a dream, and we are so good at saying, "Oh yeah, well that won't work. We can't do that. I can't do that." We're good at talking ourselves out of it, and we need to stop doing that. But we're masters at it. Everybody that's on the earth will, I'm a member of Toastmasters, and people walk into Toastmasters, and the first thing they say was, but I'm too afraid to give a speech. I could never do it. And we work with them for weeks, sometimes months, and surprisingly enough, they are quite capable of giving a speech. But they were talking themselves out of it, and we are masters of that. We're saying, "Oh, that won't work." I did this little exercise when I worked at a company years ago. I'm going to see if I can tell this quickly, but briefly, they brought 20 of us into a room, and they said, "Today, we brought you in. You're the smartest people in the company. We make metal coat hangers, and you know what? People don't use metal coat hangers anymore. Everybody uses plastic. It's lighter." And so we've got 3 warehouses full of metal coat hangers. What are we going to do? If we don't sell those coat hangers, the company's going to go out of business. So sit down and figure out what we're going to do. So we all sat down and we worked. And I think each table on average came up with 4 or 5 things that we could use metal coat hangers for other than for hanging shirts or coats or whatever. And then they told us that they went to a grade 1 school and they asked the grade 1 students the same questions. And on average, they came up with like 50 ideas that they could use metal coat hangers for. Now, none of them maybe made sense. Not a lot of them made sense, but they still had 50 ideas when we had 4. And the reason we had 4, because every idea that we had, first thing we did was saying, "Why won't it work?" That's our training. That's how we were trained in school. Why won't it work? And what I've learned to do from that exercise is I say, "Okay, here's my idea." And people will say, "Oh, that won't work because of this, but won't be that." But that starts a discussion. And with that discussion, lo and behold, the group of people comes up with, well, if we take that and we add this to it, next thing you know, we have an idea that will work. So we are so good at talking ourselves out of something without giving it a chance or without even saying it out to the universe. So I recommend that you stop doing that. But if you're feeling fear, you need to sit in the moment and say to yourself, is it true? Face the facts that are in front of you. Are the facts true? Now, this is what I had to do when I was confronted at 63 years old about retiring. Someone asked me, "When are you going to retire?" And screech. I didn't know. All of a sudden, I felt fear, and I was creating the fear. I didn't know this till I learned about ReWirement, and I was creating it, and it was true fear. I was scared. The first thing they suggest you do is sit down, sit in a chair, take a few minutes of quiet time, say, is it true? Is retirement the end of my life? And so on. You need to do this. And then anytime you're moving forward on a journey from where you are to where you want to be, you are going to have to confront your fears. Fear is a natural thing. We experience it. It's natural. Now, successful people, they understand that fear is something to be acknowledged. They understand that they sit in it and maybe give it a rating. How afraid am I? And say to themselves, is it true? One of the things you need to do, that's what I had to do, is stop thinking negatively. And that's what I did. I actually sat and I said, I actually raised my hand at the training, the Back to Success training. And I said, well, what do you do if you have an outcome that you're not comfortable with? They said, well, just sit in the moment and think about it and maybe say to yourself, could it be positive? Could retirement be positive? And believe it or not, that's all I did. And I went from completely stuck, scared, I don't know what to do. I got the brakes on, the car squealed to a stop, to all of a sudden I got all these ideas. Now, maybe I threw half of them away. I could learn to play the piano. I could start being a coach online. I could do all kinds of things. I could start riding a bike. I could get a dog. I had all these ideas where I had none before except fear. So you need to start throwing out the negative ideas, and you need to say, is my fear really true? Well, people do retire. So, you look around and there's people doing what you want to do and you're so afraid. Well, maybe you need to think about how your fear may not be true at all. So come up with a new image. Come up with a new image for whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. A positive image. Or even if you just say to yourself, could this be good for me? And just see, you start thinking in a good way, what your mind comes up with. This is where I want to talk briefly about tapping. I've given you the information for the tapping app. If you're really, really feeling anxious about something, tapping is one way. Certainly Jack Canfield recommends it. And people that I took the training with for years, was actually 3 weeks of training that we went through. They really talked this guy up, and he does a wonderful job. If you don't have anything on understanding, you can certainly Google it. You can certainly get books on it. But in the app, they show you how to do it, and it takes practice. But I'm telling you that what you're really doing when you're tapping the stress points in your body, is you're sitting in the moment and confronting your fear. And this is really what, I want you to do. One of the things about fear, it just indicates that you're taking a new step. Like when you're doing something new, it can't seem as comfortable as everything else that you've been doing. The first time people get up to speak, they're going to be feeling afraid. Although I do challenge them with that. I say, that's what's the image in your mind. I mentioned this story to them. Olympic athletes, they're always asked this before a competition. But were you afraid before the competition? And they always give the same answer. They said, no, I wasn't afraid. I've been, studying this sport for 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, whatever it is. I've been practicing this sport. I wasn't afraid. I was excited. And really, if you think about it, fear and excitement, they have a lot of the same feelings in your body. And it's only what your mind is telling you. If your mind is telling you it's fear, it's fear. But if your mind is saying, hey, I'm excited to be trying something new, totally feels different. And this is where your stack of poker chips comes in. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to do it anyway. What we want to ask ourselves is, are we scared or are we excited? Because they both have the similar reactions. We can always choose whether we say we're excited or scared. We choose what it is we want to believe. And if we were to take a fear and decide it was excitement, what could you achieve? If I convince people at Toastmasters that it's not fear, it's excitement about something new, and they get up and try it, It's an amazing thing to see. So what are some of the areas where we have fear and we stop ourselves because we're not going to achieve what we want anyway? Well, asking the boss for a raise. I wanted to save some money. I wanted to buy this new vehicle. I need to save some money to do that. How can I do that? Well, maybe I could ask the boss for a raise. Or here's one. And sorry that, this is the feminine version of it, but you can change it if you are not masculine. You could ask Sally out on a date. And Sally could say yes, Sally could say no, or Jim could say yes, Jim could say no. But, if you don't ask, you're already saying in your mind that Sally's saying no. So you're already fantasizing a negative response without, giving Sally a chance. Or, a lot of people are afraid to leave their kids home with a sitter so they can go out and have date night. And they're afraid to do that. Why? Sometimes, there's a book out that says, Who Moved My Cheese? You can certainly look it up, the little fairy tale about two mice that one day they woke up and they say, oh, our storage of cheese is just about gone. And, in reference to your job, I don't like my job. I hate my job. I come home and I obsess about how difficult my job was. Well, maybe your job is telling you it's time to move on to a new warehouse of cheese. So, it's just one of those things we do, but we talk ourselves out of it because, I'll find a job anyway. Well, you haven't even looked. So again, you talk yourself out of it. Or how about asking friends to, maybe join in a new business opportunity with you, because this was a dream, a vision, a goal that you had, but you can't do it by yourself. And, a lot of times in life, you can't do things by yourself. You need people to help you. But, I'm afraid to ask if people are going to say no. One of the exercises we did at Jack Canfield, actually, we walked around. I realized there was like 50 people at this event. Actually, the first event, there was 400 people at BTS. And we were told to walk around, and the first 9 people that asked us, whatever they asked us, would you like, to come over and sit my kids so I could go on date night? The first 9 people that asked us, whatever they asked, we said no. The 10th person was told, the 10th person that asked, you said yes. Whatever it is, you said yes. And then we sat and we debriefed it at the end and said, how many people got 1 yes? How many people got 2 yeses? How many people got 4 yeses? And so on. And one of the things I encourage you to do is, if you get a no, maybe you could say, is that now? Or, because of today? Or, would there be a better time to ask you this? Or a better day, for you to come over and sit my kids? So we fail to do this. We're so upset when we get the no. One of the things we walked around and we said in our mind, no means next. Just ask the next person. That's what it means. So I encourage you to don't stop yourself because you're already visualizing the no. So fear is self-created. We imagine bad things are going to happen to us all the time that haven't happened yet. Well, I'm telling you right now, unless there's people here that are smarter than me, I don't believe you can predict the future. It's a fantasized event appearing real. You notice that there's an E here, event. And every time we get an event, a lot of time, we always see the bad side of it. Well, what if it could be good? One of the things that we encourage is that you say, oh, what the heck? Go for it anyway. This is something we practice saying in our mind. When somebody said no, we say, oh, what the heck? Next, ask someone else. Everything that you want is on the other side of your fear. Everything you really want, those things that when you did the I want exercise and you got deep into it, those things at the bottom of the list are usually something that you just put off, or because you don't have enough poker chips in front of you, you were afraid to sit in the moment and examine the fear of why you aren't going for it. So getting back to exercise 6.1, it's really just an exercise where you sit down and you say, okay, how are you scaring yourself? So go back to your I want list. What is one of the ones on there that scares you? So I'm afraid to whatever. I want you to write down these things if you don't have the workbook. So I'm afraid to blank. I'm afraid to do what? What's stopping you about this want that you have? But I'd really like to. So I'm afraid to. I'd really like to. And I scare myself by imagining blank if I did it. And all this exercise is a bunch of those words, the same ones over and over. So look at the ones on your list that bring up fear and start analyzing why you feel that fear. I'm afraid to do it, but I'd really like to do it. And I scare myself by imagining what. And only by imagining, figuring out what you're imagining, can you imagine something new. There's a great chapter on this in that book that I recommended, the Success Principles Workbook. And it's chapter 8. And actually, the title of the chapter is Everything You Want is on the Other Side of Fear. And there's a really good there's really good exercises, and it really just talks about, fear is valuable. It kept us alive years ago when we lived in the jungle. We wanted to run away or fight. You do need to be realistic about the risk. That's true. So that's why you need to sit and examine it. But fear is a learned response. We learned it years ago. It's very powerful. It's very emotional, and that's why we like emotions. Even if it's the wrong ones, we do like those emotions. But it can be unlearned. Well, how do you unlearn fear? You have to acknowledge the fear, as I briefly mentioned. You have to sit in it. You have to feel it. Just how strong is it, and how real is it? How truthful is it? Stop managing, or stop imaging a negative outcome. What if it can be positive? Replace that scary image with a new positive image. Maybe use EFT or tapping therapy, as it's called short, and process that fear right out of your body. Well, that's chapter 8 in that workbook. Or if you've actually gone and looked at and got a copy of the Success Principles by Jack Canfield, I want you to read Principle 15. Principle 15 is experience your fear and take action anyways. So both those books have great material to help you with fear. And I'm hoping that you're sitting there thinking, yeah, I did look at those wants of mine, and there's a few of them that really scare me. Well, we need to analyze why. So that's the take action exercise that I just briefly went through. Move your I'd really like to items forward with this exercise. Set a date. Use the form to track yourself going forward. Exercise 6.2, where you actually put it beside 6.1 and say, okay, what actions can I take towards these things where I'm feeling fear to make it happen? What actions will I take? By when? And check it off when it's done. So exercise 6.1, then you move to 6.2 and actually write down, what am I going to do to conquer this fear that I'm feeling about this I want? One of the things that we talk about is feelings. I want to get some awareness around feelings concept, and there's an exercise 6.3 in the book to let you explore some of the feelings you're feeling about what you want and around circumstances in your life, around your relationships. At some level, we are creating, promoting, or allowing all of our experiences and all our feelings. We are 100% responsible. Now, I drew this picture because I want people to know that a lot of times, maybe more so with men, I don't know, I only speak from this because I'm a man, but note that anger a lot of times hides feelings under the surface. And a lot of the feelings that we're feeling when we're scared, when we want something, we could actually get angry because we think we can't do it, we can't get it, we're not good enough. If we have regret, we have resentment. If we're feeling afraid, or maybe we're feeling remorse. When people go through remorse, one of the first steps they go through is anger. So I drew this iceberg because I want people to realize that sometimes there's fear, there's emotions underneath the anger. And that's why when you're feeling fear, maybe you're getting upset, you need to sit in the moment and say, what am I actually feeling? So this is an exercise you can work through. Talk about your anger and your resentment, or when you're feeling hurt, when you're feeling fear, if you have remorse, if you have wants, and maybe love, compassion, forgiveness, and appreciation. But you want to get to the deepest level of whatever the emotion you're actually feeling. Sometimes you have to break through the anger to actually figure out what it is that's stopping you so you can take action. Another one of the exercises today is called the total truth letter. Sometimes you have something that's stopping you. You need to explore the emotions that are inside you. That's the Dutch have a word called verklempt. The only reason I know that word is because my wife is Dutch ancestry, but she uses the word. She's used it a few times, so it's stuck with me because it's verklempt. I just thought it was an interesting word. As an engineer, it really appealed to me. So exercise 6.4, maybe you need to write yourself a truth letter. Find out what the emotions are that's underneath you that's stopping you. When you're upset, when you're angry, or when you're feeling emotions, it's difficult to communicate with others. It's difficult to communicate to yourself. And it's difficult for us to feel close to a person following a confrontation because there's usually emotions. And I'm going to also add to this, sometimes it's you're doing it to yourself. I know that when I got ill and I needed to have surgery, I was excited that the surgery would help, but I actually had to have the surgery 3 different times before the surgery worked to the point where now my cancer is under control and it's gone dormant. Inside me, there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of emotion, to the point that I pushed people away because I didn't even understand what was inside my body. I probably needed to do this truth letter. That helps you get to the deepest, most honest level of intimacy and emotions that are in your body. You need to go all through all three stages, or sorry, all the stages of the truth letter. But sometimes the truth letter would help. Maybe it's a letter to someone else. Maybe it's a letter to yourself. I know I did this truth letter, and actually what I did it was I wrote it to my mother. My mother passed away, but years ago she came to me and she said, would you go to your grandmother's funeral with me? It was the other side of Canada, and I just had never really been given life lessons about what funerals were, what death was. And for me, when she said, do you want to go to your grandmother's funeral? I said, no, I don't want to go. My grandmother was at an age, I was the youngest in the family by the time I met my grandmother, because she lived all the way across the country. I was 16 years old, and you know what goes on in the minds of 16-year-olds. She meant nothing to me. She never, hugged me. I wasn't a baby, so she didn't hold me in her arms. You understand what I'm saying? So I said no, but I didn't realize that you go to funerals for the people that are still alive, and I should have done that. So I had some guilt over this, and I had emotions over this. So I need to sit down and write myself a truth letter. There are 6 questions that you should ask yourself. So 6 paragraphs that you want to write. I'm angry that. That's the first paragraph. I'm angry that. It hurts me when. And just fill in the paragraph. I'm afraid that. Write yourself a paragraph. And maybe these all don't apply to what you're feeling, but you need to explore each one. I'm sorry that I didn't go with my mother. It was the right thing to do. I know that. So to her, the next paragraph, I want you to know, and I wanted my mother to know that I loved her. She knew it, but I wanted her to know that I didn't understand at the time. And the last paragraph, I love you for, a list of things that I love her for. And at the end, I had to say to myself, Mom, I made the decision with the best information I had at the time. I can't go back and change it. If you're up there listening to me, the truthlessness in my heart, I wish I'd have gone with you. It would have been an emotional moment. I could have been there to hug you, because I'm sure you would have cried at the funeral. And I wish I'd have been there. But, there was 4 other kids in the family that maybe she did ask. I don't know. But it just, for me at the time, it didn't radiate. So if you're feeling emotions, I really recommend that maybe you think about writing yourself a truth letter, or you can write a truth letter to someone else. If you're feeling upset with someone, there was a confrontation, or maybe they hurt you, you can write a truth letter. You don't have to show them the truth letter. A matter of fact, I recommend that maybe you don't do that. But I think that it's important that you get the emotions out. The emotions stuck inside you that you're not, realizing that are there, can stop you when it comes to, can work against your self-esteem, can work against your poker chips, because you have this thing that's inside you and you need to explore it. If you do these things, you will become successful. You will take action. And that's what this has all been about. So in summary, we talked about responsibility, E plus R equals O. We talked about figuring out what it is that you want and why. And maybe the why being, be clear exactly what it is. And when you get that clarity, sometimes you don't go after it because you haven't taken the time to actually get clear. Believe in yourself, but if you're like me, you have more than 100 successes in your life. You just don't realize it because you get them, you check them off, and you go do something else. I mean, we all amazed how kids can use a cell phone. Well, can you use a cell phone? Oh, yeah. Well, everybody can use a cell phone. Well, you know what? That's not true. But kids, yes, they can pick it up just like that. If you're having trouble, you ask your kid to show you how. Amazingly, they do. But know what you want and why. Believe in yourself. Set some goals. Release the brakes using affirmations. Get rid of any baggage emotion that you have and take action. So thanks for joining me in this 6-week course. Hopefully you've learned things that'll help you rewire your thinking and move on to success. How taking 100% responsibility can change your outlook for yourselves, for others, and for the world. I hope that you can look back at what we've done in 6 weeks. You can see that you've accomplished some things. Help build up your stack of poker chips. Remember that we suggested that you look at 7 different areas of your life. Pick the ones that are most important to you right now, but think about possible 7 areas where you could set goals. I hope you set at least 2 or 3 goals while we were working over these 6 weeks. Release those brakes, and you're rolling right into action. Should you want to take it to the next level, I know that Monica and I are talking about possible things that we can do. So I do suggest that don't be afraid to ask. If you don't ask for what you need, you're not going to get it. Thank you so much. Remember my Facebook page. Remember my Gmail address.
Thank you so much, George. I have benefited a lot. Most of the stuff you were sharing were actually working as a reminder, but there was a lot more detail to some of the things that I already know. I like the total truth letter. I like that very much because I often use that. You know, it allows you to get rid of everything that's stuck inside. It leaves you free, and it opens up a space in your mind to think about other things, to create other possibilities. A lot of the time, people don't know what is keeping them stuck. And in many ways, it is these emotions that people carry for a very long time. You can see how when you share your story about the request that your mom had for you, and at the time you didn't think it was an issue, but when you were older and you started to understand what funeral is for and what it meant for your mom or to your mom, it made you realize, oh my God, I made a blunder. But you made that blunder unknowingly because you were only 16. And realizing that, it brought a lot of guilt upon yourself. And now you used that technique or that tool to get rid of the guilt. And I totally like, I think this is why I also find helping authors to write their stories, because it allows them to take whatever it is holding them back, put it aside, and now look at other opportunities, freeing themselves for other possibilities. Thank you so much. To all those who were following, it would be nice for you to give George some feedback as to how this course has been helping you. But also, if you want a one-to-one, one-on-one session with him, by all means, contact him and let him work with you and tailor make whatever it is that you need. George is my mentor at Toastmasters. He's a very good coach, as you can see. And so take advantage of that. He will send you the workbook and he will guide you, he will walk you through all these things. He is one coach who is not afraid to hold you accountable and to make sure that you get the result that you declared that you wanted in the first place. And so I totally recommend him. As for other exercises and other things that we can do, we'll come and let you know. And maybe we can do this in a more intimate group, a smaller group, where we actually have maybe like a Zoom session, and make sure that those who are willing to move from one point to the next get the opportunity to do so. During this time where we are having to work out our own structures, it is important that you plug into something that gives you structure, or that forces you to have structure, so that by the time all this is done and dusted and we are back to going out and going places, we have already achieved so much. Thank you so much, George, and thanks to everyone who has been attending and participating in this Your Rewirement for Success with George Brown. Thank you so much for taking part and for supporting Self TV. Bye-bye.
Bye, Monica.